Hello and welcome back to the sixth part of the Seiko 5 disassembly and service. Smiley face. In this part, what I'm going to do is to examine the various components that we have prior to cleaning for any wear and damage beyond what we've already observed. And hopefully we don't find any, because this watch has never been serviced, hasn't been fiddled with as far as I know, so it should just be normal wear and tear. And for this I'm going to be using my Celestron digital microscope, which is not tremendously expensive. Can't remember the price, it wasn't hugely expensive, and that's connected to my laptop. Gives a maximum of a times 200 zoom, which I think should be probably enough for most things, yeah, I'll get to learn to drive it one of these days. Normally I do these videos as a single take, hardly any editing if I can avoid it, but this, because I'm recording it onto the laptop, is going to be slightly different. So basically what I'll do is take a number of stills and then voice over what we can see, what we find. And then after that, won't be on this video, it'll be on the next one. We'll be cleaning it, cleaning the various parts, and I'll be using a process slightly modified from that of my retro watches. I don't have a watch cleaning machine, much as I would like one. The budget won't stretch to one at the moment, and I'll be using an ultrasonic and various household cleaning products. Anyway, let's get going. Right, let's start with the balance. Normally you take the balance off, strip the main plate down, put it back on, and then put it in the cleaning machine. Well, the main plate is so filthy that I'm going to clean that first, then put the balance back on, and then clean it again. But looking at it, what you can see here is the individual coils are nice and evenly spaced, nice concentricity. Where it steps out to go through the clamp, that's nice. There's no kinking, there's a lot of dirt, that's for sure. And sort of at the 7 o'clock position, although it's a relatively inexpensively made balance, you can see that there's been a couple of drill holes just to get it nicely balanced, and that's just fine. So moving in, we have a look at the impulse jewel and the end of the balance staff, and that looks okay. The impulse jewel is pretty good. Again, it's just grubby, and that'll be fine. So what I then did was tilt it sideways to look at the balance staff, and that looks okay to me. As you saw when I was stripping the watch down, probably on the first or probably the second video, the balance does actually spin. So moving on to the barrel, this is the cap on the barrel, and you can see that it is rather worn. As we'll see in a moment, the barrel had been, or the mainspring had been lubricated, but that lubricant had dried out. I assume it's some form of grease, and it had dried out. When I took the mainspring out, you may have seen it, you may not, I didn't draw attention to it, but there was like a rectangular plate of something black, and I thought it was a bit of spring that had broken off. Turns out it was actually dried squashed oil, so that's going to have to get cleaned out thoroughly. Moving on to the barrel arbor, that's alright, that doesn't seem to be overly worn. This is the area where the tooth is for the spring to attach, and that's okay. Now the main plate, this is looking on the keyless works side. It's not that bad. Turn it over to the motion works side, and yeah, you can see sort of 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock position where the barrel would be. There's some dirt and wear. Let's just zoom in on that. And this is where the barrel would be, with the barrel arbor hole at the top of the picture, and you can see there's some wear at the bottom, and it is grubby as anything. Now the balance jewel, this is which way we're looking. This would be the bottom balance jewel, and let's just zoom in. Let's turn it over, in fact, and this is the Diashock cap on the other side. Now I did zoom in on that, but it really wasn't very good, and the actual pivot hole looks okay. There's no damage that I could see. Onto the escape nut, or the escape wheel, and there doesn't look to be a massive amount of wear. Obviously the jewel is going to be harder than the metal, and if there was going to be wear, then we would see it, but it looks okay. This is the barrel head pivot on the train plate. Sorry, the train bridge, and there's quite a bit of wear around the centre, and you can see where there's been quite a bit of oil or grease come out of that, and for all the filth that's come out, it looks like it's been over lubricated. This is the underside of the same bearing, and yeah, it's grubby. You can see at the 7 o'clock position again we've got some wear. Onto the pallet fork, and apart from being filthy, it looks okay. The jewels are okay, they're not damaged, and you know, they're sitting evenly within their clamps. Looking at it on the other side, it may be visible, but I think that's all shellacked in, so I'm going to have to be careful cleaning that and use the appropriate screws. And finally we have the automatic winder cover plate, and you can see at the bottom, the 6 o'clock position, where there's a shiny brass bit. That's where the gear is that connects with the barrel, and it's quite worn at that point, and as I've probably said before a couple of times, shavings of metal will have gone into everything else, hopefully captured by grease variously. At the 11 o'clock you've got the pivot that the offset weight will swing around, and that sort of beigey brown goo is the dried up lubricant that was on that pivot. And it still rotates, but it's obviously going to have additional friction because the lubricant isn't lubricating. So there we have it. That's all the various parts that are in there. Well, it's not all the parts, but some of the main ones. As you can see, there's quite a bit of dirt, there's some wear, but the watch is sort of like 46 years old, nearly 50 years old, and yeah, it needs a service. So the next stage is to clean it, and I'll be doing a video on that. Won't be terribly exciting, but I'll show you through the process that I'm using. For good or ill, I'm sure I'll get some criticism for what I'm doing, but as a hobbyist I can't afford the best equipment, and some of the materials are not cost effective for me to use. Anyway, we'll come to that. Thanks for watching and catch you later.